Yes. All right, we're back.
Oh, thank God. Let me call everybody.
Wait, hold on 1 second now. Say something.
Yes.
Okay, good. We're good. All right. I'll call everybody. You just tell me who to call.
Okay, this is the Heinz family.
I'll watch the chat room.
This didn't work.
It's okay.
Hi, sweetheart. We're on now. Yeah, just have him acknowledge he sees us in the chat room, okay, hon? Just have him acknowledge that he sees us in the chat room. He can just respond. Okay. Thank you, honey. Bye.
I'll do it.
I don't know this one.
So.
We did him.
All right.
So Annie.
Yep. Let me put it in again.
Hi, Mrs. Herbie. We're on now. So if Annie can go to EatonPrep.com and click on the oh great, Joe's here. Thank you, Joe. Very wonderful to see you. We can't see you, but if she could just go on now to EatonPrep.com and talk to us in the chat room. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, now we just have to call that one.
Which one?
I don't have the number. I have to go back to my email.
Oh, okay. I'll look.
It's the...
Patrick's here.
Oh, good, Patrick. We had one little glitch.
Is it Liam?
It's Neely, Neely. I thought I wrote his number down here.
Oh, I'll call him. I think that's Liam, right?
Yeah, but I thought I wrote it down.
There you go.
This is Liam?
Yeah, that's Liam.
Hi, Liam. We fixed the glitch and we're on now. So if you could just let us know in the chat room, okay? See if you can get on. And then just put us in on the chat room. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right, now you're all set then. Liam's there.
Okay, Liam's here. All right, now we're still waiting for Annie. So Annie, if you could just let us know that you're here. I'm sorry we had a tech glitch that's never happened before. So I'm still waiting for Annie Herbay. Oh, great. Okay, so we're all here. So I'm Mrs. Hessler, and we're navigating through the pandemic, but this is our powerful SAT class. We just had 3 people from Saturday call us, and they were all in the 1400s, so this program really works. So what we're going to need you to do, just a couple things. The essay, as you know, is optional, or maybe you don't know that yet. So
see if they can hear you okay.
Oh, can somebody tell me if you're hearing me okay? So we just know the vocal connection is through. Jim, where's the stylus? Okay. If someone in the chat room can let us know if they can hear us, fine. So we just know the vocal is translating as well. Okay, great. Thanks, Pat. All right. So anyway, if you want to write, thank you. This was just a little craziness. So this, if you want to write down this site, maybe in the cover of your blue book, this is what we're going to be, this is where you go if you want to know if your college that you're interested in is requiring essays. So I'd like you to just write this down. I'll give you a little time to do that. And then we're going to start. So anyway, that's one site you can go to and see if your college requires an essay. So we're going to start today with a little bit of overview. Oh, I'm so glad we all got this all worked out. So anyway, you will get a score between 200 to 800, as you know, and 500 is average. But every question is 10 points. So
for some reason, I'm having a little issue here.
Oh, okay, wait a minute.
So let me just try to mess with this real quick.
Wait, so
the whiteboard's kind of... You can keep talking to them, but I want to maybe mess with this.
Okay, the whiteboard is... Well, that's all right. I can just write it down here, can I?
Yeah, if you just stay in this area.
Yeah, I'll just stay in that area for now.
You clear it with this.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so let me begin. So you know you're going to get a score from 200 to 800. This is just our orientation. So as I mentioned, in both categories, 500 is average. And every question is 10 points. And like I said, we just had people get 800s in math very easily because the test went to the Common Core. And so we're going to cover every single question you'll see on the SAT. So we're going to give you a lot of strategies starting today too. And I'm sorry we had a little late start. So we'll give you a break as we go through this orientation. So I want to mention a couple other things. So every question is 10 points. So there's no guessing penalty. So you should fill in every oval. Fill in every question because you have a fourth.
You're already kind of going off the whiteboard.
Oh, no.
So I might.
We have to just adjust the whiteboard.
I think I can adjust it.
Okay, I'll just keep talking then.
Yeah. Let me just adjust this real quick.
Jim is my son. He teaches English. He graduated from Penn State. So a lot of scholarships, a lot of you I know are working towards that, are they're predicated on SAT scores. So we're just trying to enlarge the whiteboard right now. Yeah. So I know at all the main Catholic schools like Duquesne and Latrobe, if you have a 1200, that's $3,000 off your tuition a year. My eldest son got into, and maybe Annie, you had Mr. Hessler at school, I don't know, but he got into Penn State Honors, and that was a half tuition, and you needed a $1350 for that.
All right, that should work.
Okay, so now we have a wider whiteboard. Thank you. I still need the stylus.
Let me see if that works.
So, as you know, so what we want to try to do is get you a lot of pre-tax dollars off your tuition. So I know we always start fairly slowly.
That didn't work.
That didn't work. Hold on. So I'm still continuing to talk. So Penn State, Maine, and Pitt, Maine, the honors college is about a $1350, and that saves you half tuition. But and this is pre-tax dollars for your parents. So a lot of schools do something called Super Score, which means they take the best math and the best English from two different settings. So a lot of kids take the test twice. So now we're good?
I don't know. I don't want to mess with the stream. Could you just write in this area?
Okay.
Just for now.
So right for now, we're getting ready for the December 5th SAT. So you'll be going off the wave
They
of
won't
this
see that.
class.
Like, really, like, what I'm saying is, like, if you just keep it there for now.
Okay. So we're getting ready for the December 5th SAT. So that's the one you should register for right off the wave of the class. And you all got a schedule, hopefully. And so we're doing Sunday, 2 to 5. And then we're doing Wednesday. Well, today's we're going to go a little over because we had that crazy technology glitch. And then we're going to be doing Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30. So, and so the super score thing, that's where they take the best from both. But I know a lot of you from already talking to your parents, you're interested in scholarship money. So the SAT's optional, so that's why, and the one we're gearing up for is the December 5th. So if you would grab a few things out of your box, if you would grab, there's a packet called the Redesigned SAT. Oh.
Just clear it every time and write up there.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt the stream.
Yeah. So the packet you're going to need is the Redesigned SAT. So if you get that out of your blue box or your box, and then you're also going to need your blue book. And so then eventually we're also going to do Heart of Algebra 1 today. Okay, so that's great. And if you ever have any questions, just put them in the chat room. And so we're gearing up for a powerful, you'll be very empowered by December 5th. So is there any question on just the general gist of all the things? We're going to go through this packet right now. So if everybody has that packet. Okay, we start off with the SAT. It's not an intelligence test. It's a test of your reading, writing, and math skills you've acquired in school. So obviously, going through the test as we do very thoroughly, you can easily get a real top math score. And like at Penn State, they just do 2/3 your grades and 1/3 your SAT score. Okay, but like I said, I know a lot of you are working for scholarships. So when you call the colleges, ask for their average SAT score and then ask for what the, ask for where the scholarship money is given. So the colleges use the SAT as an objective measurement of your ability because they don't know what an A is from one school compared to another from another school. And so the reading section, oh, okay. I have to brighten this little corner here. So
well, you could write over here. You just can't write below.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the reading portion, let's see if they can see that. So you have an idea. Let's see if that comes up. The reading portion, 1/3 of it is grammar. And so there's 20 grammar rules that we're just giving you a heads up on that you have to know for the test. And like I mentioned, we're going to be taking 3 tests from the Blue Book with us. But this is a good time to take it because you're going. Most of you are juniors. You're going to run up to the December test and you still have a couple more options, but that's in March. They're beginning to get very quick at the grading, like it's pretty much 2 weeks and you've got your score. Okay, the SAT, like I mentioned, is even more predictable since it went to the Common Core. So if you turn the page in that redesigned packet, okay, and you can see the time allowance for the SAT. So you have to read 5 passages in 65 minutes. That's one reason we have you take the 3 other actual College Board tests from that Blue Book. And we're not going to have you take one until after Wednesday night's class. So you're going to take a test and then mail the grid to us, and we'll grade it and analyze it, and then you'll know your strengths and weaknesses. We're going to pass up on the PSAT because I think you already took that. So if anybody could let me know if they took the PSAT, just acknowledge that you took the PSAT this year in the chat room, so I have an idea how many of you have seen a PSAT before. Okay, also, so we're working on pacing, which is critical because time is money on this test. And so we don't want you to read the directions. Had anybody taken? Okay, Joe took the PSAT. Okay, we're trying to figure out who took it. So the pacing is critical because you'll know yourself. Okay, most of you have taken that. So you'll know yourself if you are rushed in a certain section, like you're having trouble with no calculator math or you're doing very great on it. And then another thing is don't spend more than a minute on a problem. Okay, that's okay, Annie. So the math section goes from, I gotta stay up here, sorry. So the math section goes from easy to hard. So the first 10 questions, there's going to be no traps, no gimmicks. So that part will be easy. And then the shark-infested waters come as you get to the end. And probably you've had some...
I guess that's about as far.
That's about as far as I can go. Okay.
It's a tight board today.
Yeah, so we have a tight board today. That's okay. And then we're going to be going through these course lessons. So let's turn to the next page where it talks about the math test. And so there's a no calculator section and a calculator section, and you have to work within those parameters when you take the test at home. So let's look at the math test directions, because we don't want you to read them on test day. They're identical. We don't want you to bring a live cell phone into the SAT either. So going on the next page, which is the formula page, these are the formulas.
Calculator, no calculator?
Yeah, I covered the calculator, no calculator. So the formula page, these are the formulas that you need to refer to on the SAT. We have 2 lessons that cover all the geometry. So like I mentioned, through this course, you're going to cover everything you need, have it all refreshed for you, like the isosceles right triangle and all the things you need to know. So in sort of a crazy situation, there are 8 formulas on the test that they don't give you, like the circle in the coordinate plane, the vertex formula for a parabola, but we're covering all that in the class. Okay, there's also a grid-in section on the class, on each test for math. And let's turn the page because I want you totally familiar with the grid-in directions before test day, so you don't have to read any of this on test day. You're just going to go to question 1, the pay money question. You're not going to read any directions. So if you have a fraction, you're going to have to reduce it. And that's one reason also we have you take the practice test. And you'll get this, the solutions are there too, so we'll be explaining that. But I don't want you to take the test until after Wednesday's class. Then, if the grid is like this, and your answer is 4, you can put a 4 here, but you don't get credit for that. You only get credit for coloring in the oval. But you could write on your test, you could write, this blue book is yours. So we're going to get you very familiar with, I just want to see if anybody has a question. Mm-hmm. The other stipulations for the grid-in section are, if you have a mixed number like 2.5, obviously you can't put that down because the computer in New Jersey will read that as 21 halves. So that has to be either 5 halves, or you can also write 2.5. The other thing they mention is a repeating decimal. And so if you have a repeating decimal, like say you have 2/3, you can put in 2/3, 0.666 or 0.667. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Repeating decimal is going to be like repeating decimal. My board is cut off. So a repeating decimal, for example, you could write 2/3, you could write 0.666 or 0.667, but you have to take it out 3 places. Okay, and it's impossible, obviously, in the gradient section to enter a negative number or a radical or an imaginary number, so you know your answer cannot be one of those. Usually the answers in that section are integers. So if you turn to the next page, this is just a review of what the content is. What we're going to be doing is obviously starting with the basic foundation and getting you to some harder questions. Yeah. So if you look at the page that has SAT math test content, you can see the proportion. A large part of this is algebra, obviously. And so if you've had algebra 2, we're just trying to make
I'm just trying to make you like a little area, but
oh yeah, no.
I guess
Okay.
Work.
All right, that's okay. So these are the things the categories, but for example, in statistics, you do not need to know the formula for standard deviation, but you have to understand it. And so we're going to explain everything on the test. So let's go to the next page. The first 9 things there are things you need to know, but we're not going to worry about that right now. You can look at that at your leisure. So let's go to question 1, which says the rate for a telephone call between 2 cities is 50 cents. And this comes with our first strategy. So like I mentioned, I'm going to be giving you a lot of strategies in this program. One is there are A traps on the test. And what do you mean by an A trap? Well, an A trap is they want to give you a deceitful answer, especially at the end, to go for, and usually that answer is A. There will be A's in the answer, obviously, but that's one strategy. And so another strategy we're going to show you is if it's very abstract algebra and you're not a complete math savant, you can pick a number. And so we're going to work through this one together, and then I'm going to let you do one in a minute. So I'm on question 1. If anybody can't see that, I'm going to try to see where the end of my whiteboard is. It's probably here, maybe. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to watch.
I mean, I could fix it, but I don't want to stop.
No, we don't want to stop the class. Okay, so maybe, yeah,
just
okay.
Stay in there and you'll be good.
So if I stay in here, I'll be good.
Yeah.
All right.
You just clear them frequently.
Yes. Okay, we're good. Dealing with the pandemic and all this. So yeah. So the rate for a telephone call between 2 cities is 50 cents for the first 2 minutes and 20 cents for each additional minute or portion thereof. Which of the following functions expresses the cost in dollars of a phone call between these 2 cities that lasts for n minutes, where n is a positive number? And so obviously if you're a math savant, you probably could understand what to pick. But we're going to just put in a number. Let's say n is 5. And this is not cheating. This is totally legal to do. And I'm going to have you try one in a minute. So if n is 5, we're calling for 5 minutes. And this will just take you a little bit to get used to using this strategy, and you can use it on hard algebra as well. So the first 2 minutes are going to be 50 cents. And so then it's the other 3 minutes are going to be times 20 cents, so that'll be 60 cents. So we need an answer that's going to kick out $1.10 when we put in 5. So I'm going to have everybody just write in the chat room, which answer do you think is right for this telephone call question? which answer, when you put in a 5, will kick out $1.10. So you could just put your answer in the chat room. Don't be shy. And like I said, you sort of have to, through this beginning part, sort of trust us. But on Saturday, I just got a lot of emails that a lot of people got. Yes. Okay, that's great, Joe. Does everybody see the answer would be B? Because if you put in 5 for N, that'll give you $1.10. Patrick got it. I know this seems maybe like a strategy you might have not have been wanting to use before, but we'll be working with this strategy of picking numbers through the course. I just want to be sure that Annie and Liam got B. So if you could just let me know if you understood that, the two of you, Annie and Liam, that you got B for that question. If you're confused, just let me know. We're just a small group of friends here. Good, Annie. And what about Liam? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, now let's turn the page. Now we have an equation here, and there was one of these on the March test. There's usually one of these on every test. So we're going to look at this and sort of demystify it for you. Okay, so we have this equation. P equals D R over 1400. 1 plus 1400 over R. And it looks like a monstrosity. And as I mentioned, at some point, I'm going to be mailing you guys the last test that was released, which was March, and so you can work out the last released SAT. Okay, so which of the following, now this is their lingo in the College Board. They said, which of the following gives D, and this in terms of, you can just cross off. Because that's how they phrase these. And like I said, the test became so predictable that it's very easy to do a lot of these questions quickly, where they might intimidate you at first. So now you're going to go, oh, I know how to do that question. I know how to do that question. So we're trying to get this D to stand alone. So this is a little difficult, but let me just explain it. Basically, we have P equals D, and we're going to call this whole term A. So we're trying to demystify this, and this whole term down here is going to be B. And like I mentioned, we're trying to get D to stand alone. So basically, we're going to have to...
That's behind your head, kind of.
Oh, it's behind my head. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I forget that I have a little... Okay, so we're working with B is D, A, and this whole term down here is going to be B. So if I sort of... This is our A term, and this down here is our B term. So obviously, if we had this equation, we would multiply by B and divide by A. So that's still on the board. Let me see. Yes. Hallelujah. Okay. So, well, almost. So we need to basically multiply this P by this entire B term, and then divide it by A. Because at first, this might cause you a little consternation. But if all we do is multiply this by B and then divide it by A, we can see that the answer to this question is C. Does anybody have a question on that so far? So basically, I'm going to try to put this right here. So what we're doing is we're multiplying the P by a B and dividing by A. Okay, so now we're going to try a book question. So I like to do a lot of hard questions out of the book. So if you would turn to 1230 in your blue book and look at question number 7. Let me see if that makes it on there.
Just clear it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to clear it a lot. Just because we don't
Yeah, okay. So we're going to page 1230 in the blue book, and I want you to look at number 7. So this is your book. You can write in it, put the formulas that we'll give you that are not on the test in it. So if you would turn to 1230, this is a question just like the one we did. So like I said, if you've had Algebra 2, you've had all the math you need for the SAT. So I'd like you to look at question 7 and give it a try and put an answer in the chat room. And I will work it here, but I'd like you to just sort of dive in and try it. So we're solving for P. Remember, you can just cross a line through that in terms of. You watch to see if anybody puts an answer in, okay? So I'm wanting to see if anybody got an answer for 1230, number 7. So basically what we're going to be doing, to get that P to stand alone, we're going to be multiplying this B term by M and divide it by A. Anybody have an answer? The answer is B. So Annie got it, Patrick got it. So we just want to know about Liam and Joe. Good. Okay, and just Liam as well. Did Liam get it? When we are done with this question, can we please go back to the last question? I thought the answer was C. Okay, so this one is B. So let's go back to, yes, the answer to the last question was C. So this is for Liam's benefit. Let's go back to the last question. If I misunderstood people, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have, I'm going back to the packet now. And maybe I erroneously said the wrong thing. B is D over, yes, the answer to this question is C. So the people that said B, if you would go back and just look at that and be sure you, because I was trying to follow the chat room and I misspoke. Apologies. But most of you got the book question right, so we're good on that. Okay, so this one we will multiply by this term and divide by this term And so, does everybody see that's going to be C? So, I misspoke. The answer was not B. So, the answer in the packet was C for sure. Is everybody okay with that? Thank you, Liam. Okay, let's go on to the next question. But all of you got the book questions, so you'll be ready for that. Because on the March test, it was most of the time, the variable question will be pretty easy, but there was a brutal one on the March test, which I will show you. And you usually have one of those, the one we just went over. So if we have 9A plus 12B is 48, and then we have 27A plus 36B is C. So I'm on question 3 in the packet. Okay, in the system of equations above, which value of C would result in infinite many solutions? So just a review, infinitely many solutions is going to be the same line. So it's just traveling incognito here is another equation. The other thing about it is if you have no solution, the lines will be parallel, and we're going to be working more at that next time. So how will we get this one right? Well, we have to sort of fly like an eagle above the question. This is really a 5-second question. We're going to try one in the blue book in a minute. So you have to see, what are you multiplying 9 by to get to 27? Obviously 3, and 48 times 3, C would be 144, which was answer choice D. So hopefully that's good with that one. So using that same approach on a test that was recently given, I'd like you to turn in your blue book to page 612, and I'd like you to try number 33. So this is sort of in the because we're in the end of the grid ends. So this should be a 5-second question if you know what you're doing. So if you can just try it and put the answer in the chat room. And your mission is to find C in like 5 seconds. So I'm going to be looking in the chat room for anybody that got the answer. It would just be an integer that you can get. Yes, Patrick, high five to you. Andy got it. Wow. Let's see if Liam and Joe, are you on board? Great job. So one like this, I'm just waiting for Liam and Joe to, yes, Joe and Liam, way out there in downtown Pittsburgh. Okay, so C would be 30. And you see how easily that is to do. So you don't have to solve for X or Y. And so that's that kind of question. So let's go back to the packet. That was awesome. I knew I had scholars here. Let's go on to the next page, which we're not going to do because you could read through all that. But my job is to take you right into the meat of the situation. So I'm on the page that has graphs on it. And this is a little bit of our statistics, but we're going to be going over margin of error. And you don't have to have a year of statistics to take the SAT, obviously. We're going to be going over that. That's our last class before you go right in. So right now, I'm looking on the graph. Oh, yes, I know. On page, I'm just going to draw a little box. That's where I can stay. I've got like my dog net or whatever, my dog fence. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this question is the number of household pets. Now, the greatest thing about the greatest twist about graphs is they try to mess you up with their verbiage. So let's look at this circle graph. The circle graph above shows the proportion of pets per household surveyed. If 800 households were surveyed, how many households had 2 or fewer pets? So we're doing 2 or fewer. Because probably 100,000 juniors will just find the 2, but we want 2 or fewer. So if we look at the 2 pets, that's the striped ones. That's going to be 0.16. And then we want the or fewer, because we have to read this very carefully. That'll be the polka dot one, which is 0.43. And then we're going to be going to the 0 pets, which is horizontal striped, which is 0.18. So we add those up. This would be a calculator question. That's going to be 0.77 times 800, sorry, and that will give us 616. So that's just a caution to read the graph. We're going to try to show you a lot of the pitfalls that they try to get people to fall into. So on the next question, we have systolic and diastolic blood pressures. So it says each point in the scatter plot above represents a different person's systolic and diastolic blood pressures. So it can be over 90 or over 140. So if we count these, we just draw these lines. So we can see that there's 6 that are either over 140, over 90, or both. We don't want to count this one twice. So that will be 6 out of 16, and indeed we do have to reduce it, which would be 3/8. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. Okay, let's go on to one statistical problem on the next page. Like I mentioned, we're going to cover, you don't even have to have trigonometry for the SAT. Basically, all you need to know is SOHCAHTOA and one identity, which we'll give you when we cover triangles. But like I mentioned, they don't give you this on the test, and they also don't give you the identity you need to know. It's a little unfair, and that's why maybe when you took your PSAT, some of it seemed like a bit of a cobbled together mess to you. Okay, let's read the question with the bar graph. The graph above shows the distribution of the number of days spent on business trips in 2015 by a group of employees of a company. Based on the graph, what is the median number of days? Now, after 25 years of doing this, what I found, a lot of kids mix up mean and median when they read them. So I would just underline it so you don't make that mistake. So median is the middle term. Now, when you're in middle school, they would have you write out all these terms and find the middle number. But we don't want to, in middle school, they wanted to keep you busy so you wouldn't keep the teacher busy. So here's a fast way to do one of these. We would have 5 that are 30, plus 6 that are 31, plus 5 that are 32, plus 8 that are 33, plus 6 that are 34, plus 136. So instead of writing out, all of these terms, we can just look and say, all right, 5 and 6, 11 and 5, there are, maybe if I put this in red, this will be clearer, but I know I have a bright group here. So there's 16 terms here, and if I go this way, this was 1 that was 36, so I have 1 and 6 is 7, so I have 15 terms here. So the middle term has to be 32. So are there any questions on that one? That's just sort of a speed way. Instead of writing diligently out all the terms, you're totally keeping a clear monitoring system by approaching it that way. So, Jim, if you would watch this chat room and scroll
I'm watching.
down, I'm seeing if anybody has a question so far. Like I said, this is sort of our overview. You don't need to have trigonometry for the test, or, yes, Joe, I can explain this again. Okay, so in middle school, of course, you would write out 530s, right? But you see, this is taking me down a rabbit trail of time. And then I would do 631s. And then I would do 532s. And then I would do 833s. So you get the picture, right?
I'm not doing that.
So I want to be thorough, but I don't.
That is a time waster.
But that's a time waster. So what I do is I say, okay, there's 530s, but I'm focusing on the 5. There are 631s, but I'm focusing on the 6. And then there are 532s. That adds up to 11 and 5. That adds up to 16 by the time I get to somewhere in here. And then going from the other way, I would have 136. They're not going to see that. 634s and 833s. So there's 15 terms to the right of 32. So that means 32 has to be my median. Did that help, Joe? I'm just going to wait for a response from you. It's just, you would probably...
We're going to do that a lot in that data statistics lesson.
Yeah, we're going to cover this in the data and statistics lesson, but I'm just trying to help you see that you don't have to write out all of those terms, which would be 31 of them. Obviously, if you had time, you could do it, but we want to try to save you time so that on test day, you're moving along about a minute a problem. Where if you wrote out all those terms thoroughly, it would probably take you at least 2 to 3 minutes, maybe. So I'm just waiting for Joe to say, does that make sense? Out there in Burgettstown. Okay, great. Okay, so everybody's good with this one. So let's go on to the next page. And this is a list of all the things for the advanced math, but we're going to cover it all in the packets. Like I said, we spent thousands of hours doing these packets. So right now, I'm on the next page, which these unfortunately are not numbered, but it has some function questions at the bottom that look like this. Oh, you can't see that, of course. So the first question, I have to remember that I have to stay in this. My dog fence is there. Okay, we have this question. F of x equals 3/5 x minus 5. So there are at least 8 or 9 function questions on the test, and we have a whole packet allotted for that. But I just wanted to start with this point because all of you are from different school districts with different math curriculum. So here, we're trying to get f of x to be 10. So do we put the 10 in for the x or the f of x? We obviously put the 10 in for the f of x, right? Because whatever in the parentheses, that's what goes in for x. So then we have this, and like I said, we're going to be dealing with a lot harder function questions, but this is just to illuminate where do you put, if it's f of x, it goes here. If it's f of x, that's 10. So now what we're going to do is add 5 to both sides, and we'll have 15 equals 3/5 x. So now we want to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 5/3. And so x would be 25, which is D. So like I said, what might be hard for one person might be easier for another person because they dealt, very thoroughly with that in their math class. So our job is to go over absolutely everything you would see on the test. And this is to just get us started today. I'm so glad you got us online, Jim, after that glitch. Okay, does everybody see how that's 25 and I'm going to wait for a second. Does anybody have a question on that one? Okay, so we're going on to the next question, which is a composite function. So I'm assuming lots of you have seen these before, right? Where you have h of g of 4. And so what you do is you put the 4 first into the g function, and then that answer goes into the h function. Oh, you can't see that so well.
They can see that.
Oh, they can see that. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so let's proceed with this one. So we put the 4 into the g function. So g of 4 will just be 4 squared, which will be 16. And then we're putting 16 into the h function. And we would get 12. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. Okay, might put that on my tombstone still. Alrighty, we good with that one? Okay, let's go down to the other one, which is very easy, but they usually put this in the harder part of the test. If the function f has 5 distinct zeros, and distinct means different. So that means that this function has to cross the x-axis at 5 points. And I'm just going to have you count them and just put it in the chat room where it crosses the x-axis, where there are 5 points that it crosses. Obviously, only one answer is correct. So just let me know what you're getting for question 3. I have to engage your math synapses, so just waiting for an answer on question 3. So I went to a conference one time and I heard that your frontal lobes develop until age 25. So yours are still sparking. So did anybody get an answer for question 3? Oh, we're scrolling down because maybe they put it in and we don't know. We can't see it. Okay, our scroll function is...
No, that's good.
Nobody's put an answer in yet? Okay, so maybe, Jim, it looks like they surely by now they would have. So you can see it is answer choice A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't know why we can't see any responses. It should have, I think this. Can somebody just write us something in this chat room like you got answer choice A? Because we might be having a glitch with the chat room. You don't think so? Did everybody get A? Just somebody say, I got A, and I understand it, before we go on to the next problem. Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why that wasn't. There's a little bit of latency there or something.
Yeah, there's some latency with our signal. Okay, let's go on to the next page. And this, I'm hoping you had in school. This is usually one question is always on the test of this kind. And you might have done synthetic division in algebra, or call it what? Linear polynomial division.
Polynomial long division.
Polynomial long division in some books. But if you never saw it before, it's not so bad. So we're going to go through one. Obviously, we're going to be going, so basically we have 4x minus 2, and we're dividing this by x plus 3. So if you've never had this before, please let me know in the chat room. Again, we might have some latency with our signal. I think that's the problem. So I have to be patient. Okay, so we're going, x will go into 4x 4 times. Then we multiply the 4 times the x, and we're going to get 4x plus 12. We do have to subtract that. I always parentheses protect this, so then we're going to get minus 4x minus 12. So our remainder will be minus 14, and we're going to put that over x plus 3. And so that answer is going to be D. Okay, I'm just wondering if anybody has difficulty with that, never saw it before. If you could just let me know. We totally understand. It might have been that you never had this before. So I'd like to try a book problem just like this. So if you would go to page 729. So I always do the book problem so that you know. And we're going to try question 13. So we are in the shark-infested waters. Okay, so I'd like you to try this one and then put an answer in the chat room. I realize it's going to take some time and we might have a delayed signal or something. And so we're going to divide this by x minus 3. If you got stuck, you could always pick a number like we explained before. That strategy works on a lot of hard algebra. So I'd like you to try this one and then put an answer in the chat room. You can see we're in the, like I mentioned, we're in the very difficult zone on the no calculator one. But the no calculator ones, they're more analytical than a math crunching problem where you have to crunch a lot of numbers. So I'd like you to try this one and then put your answer in the chat room. Okay, let's see if anybody got the answer. Again, I think we're on a delay, right, Jim?
No, this was just a hard one, I think.
Oh, maybe it's a hard question. So the answer is D. Did anybody get D out there? Let me explain it. So I think I'm going to just do it again. Because maybe you didn't have this or you haven't had it in a while. So x would go into x squared x times. Then we multiply that. Then we're going to just subtract that. That'll give us plus 1x minus 3. And that'll go in one time. Subtract that. And so then that will give us, this was a, I'm sorry.
You should have got a minus 2.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Did you get?
I did this the first time and I got it right, but did I copy the problem wrong?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It's a 5. Whoops.
Sorry.
And that 5 comes down.
Yeah.
It's a 5. Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Any answers or confusion in the chat room? So can you scroll down?
Yeah, I think I'm scrolling.
So can somebody say something in the chat room like, I got D, or I'm confused? Anything. Because we don't know if our chat room's delayed or if you all answered this correctly. Does everybody see it's going to be D? We're going to do a lot more of these in the class, but I just wanted to start out by making sure that everybody understands why this one is a D. Okay, Annie, all right, Annie gets it now. Okay, you could always pick a number. That's,
say X is 1?
yes, well, probably more than one because you'd be dealing with a negative. So I would you could pick a number for X and then see what the answer choice is. So everybody else okay? Joe and Liam and Patrick,
I think it's because people don't like regular long division, and this is like advanced long division.
Yeah, people don't like regular long division, but usually they like to throw one of these on every test. So I just want to be sure. If Pat, Joe, and Liam could just say, "Got it," or
maybe they don't. That you tell them that -2 is your remainder. That goes over the divisor.
and then the -2 goes over the divisor. That's why. Okay, great, Pat. Thank you. And so this is the whole point, that you've done a lot of questions so that on test day, they're very easy. So the next section we're going to turn the page in the packet. I'm assuming everybody's on board. Okay, great. The last little bit of math before you leave me for a little bit, but we're going to give you a little break, and then I'm going to come back and do the Heart of Algebra 1 packet as far as we can get. Okay, but there's method to our madness. Like I said, we have had so many people. We average it going up in math at least 100 points. So that's 10 questions. So, and that can make a lot of difference in scholarship money. We've had kids that tell us if I get 2 more questions right, I get 20 grand, you know. So here's theta. This is a little bit of a trick problem. So like I said, they don't give you the SOHCAHTOA mantra, but you probably all have had it. So in this question, if the sine of theta equals 0.6, so here what we're given is this is 3 and this is 4, right? Do they show that? Oh no, that's what you'd get because sine would be opposite over hypotenuse. So the sine is 6/10.
3 over x, right? 3 over x equals 0.6?
Yeah. So we would have 3 over x is 0.6. So basically we have a 3, 4, 5 triangle here. Only the numbers are multiplied twice. So I'm just going to do this so it makes it a little more under. So we're just going to do 6, 8, 10. And then we're going to go over all these triangles, the Pythagorean theorem. But again, the whole goal of this is so that you can, every question you see, you can just walk right into and do. So the sine is going to be 6 over 10, right? And so what will the cosine be? Well, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, which will be 4 over 5, which will be 0.8, which is answer choice D. Whoops. Maybe even a little more. Okay, so is everybody good with that one? Again, my whiteboard is limited, but we'll fix it. Okay, on the next page, another thing, anybody have a question on that one? I'm glad I have a lot of brilliant people going for high scores here. So, you know, I is the square root of a -1. It's an imaginary number. And I'm hoping that you've all had this in school at some point. So that means you have to know I squared is a -1. And like I said, we're going to go in depth into all of these things. So if we have 3 minus 4i and 3 plus 4i, we're going to have to FOIL that quadratic, right? So that will give us 9 plus 12i minus 12i minus 16i squared. So this is the difference of two squares, which is something we're going to be going over in another upcoming packet. So these additive inverses drop out, and so I squared would be a -1. So we would have 9 minus 16 times a -1, because that's our I squared. And 9 plus 16 will give us 25, which is D. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. So if there's any questions on that imaginary number question, let me know. And now we're going to do one solid geometry. So like I said, this is just our overview lesson, but we're just trying to dip your foot into the pool and get you all ready to go. So you know, in middle school you did a lot of volume problems, but the SAT is a step up. So now it says the figure not drawn to scale. That's going to only happen a couple times, and if that happens, you can't eyeball it. So I'm going to crunch these numbers for you. You don't have to do it. The figure above depicts an aquarium that's constructed entirely of glass in the shape of a rectangular prism with 5 sides. The top is open. The outer dimensions of the aquarium are, okay, it's 8 feet long, it is 2 feet wide, and 3 feet tall. Now, why this is an SAT problem, the aquarium is constructed entirely of glass that's 7/8 thick. So we have glass here, that'll be 7/8. This will be 7/8, and this will be 7/8. We don't have to worry about this because it's not applicable, because the water, we're dealing with the water and not the top of the aquarium. So basically we have to change it to inches because they tell us there's 720 cc's in a cubic foot. Now you don't have to know uncommon equivalencies like 5,280 feet in a mile, 1,760 yards in a mile. You don't have to know that stuff. So here we just have to change it to inches. We're just going to multiply it by 12. This is just giving you a little bit of the, but then we're going to have to take off the 7/8 here and the 7/8 here. So once we do that, we're going to be dealing with 94.25 for our length. For our width, we have to take 7/8 off of each side, so that'll be 22.75. And then for our height, we only have to take off 1 7/8, so that will become 35.875. Now we can multiply all these, because they give you this formula. Isn't that nice of them? Length times width times height, but they don't give you the circle on a coordinate plane or the vertex formula or all the other stuff you need to know. So we multiply these by like a recipe where they bring up a cooked dish at the end. You get this many inches divided by 1728, which gives us 40. Well, I guess I got to move to the right.
Did you take 3/4 of it too?
No, I'm about to take 3/4 of it. So then I'm going to take, that gives me 43.66 times 3/4 of it, the water, and that will give us, and it says closest, which is, the answer is 32.74. So the actual answer is 32, which is A. So I'm just explaining how they could take it up a little bit from the keystones onto the SAT harder problems. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn you over to James for a little bit. He's going to go over the reading part, and then I will be back for some more math, but I'm so glad we finally got online. When he's done, he's going to give you a 5-minute break so you can get a drink and use the restroom. So if anybody has any questions on that last problem, and then I'll turn you over to Jim to go over the reading. He graduated from Penn State. I'm bragging on him, Phi Beta Kappa in English. So you're in good hands with him. He also was a National Merit Scholar. Okay.
Okay, so I'm Mr. Hessler, as my mother mentioned, and we're going to talk about the SAT reading test right now. So let me find the page that we're on. All right, there we go. All right, and I will monitor the chat as we go if there are any questions. So let me bring that over here. Yeah, I'm not sure why this is so zoomed in today, but it is. But you can at least see what page I'm on. Okay, so the SAT reading test. This is the first section of the SAT. You have 65 minutes to complete it. All right, so the SAT reading test, you have 65 minutes to complete it. There are 52 questions total. It's passage-based. All of the English on the SAT, every section of the SAT is passage-based, even the essay. So they'll give you 4 single passages and 1 pair of passages on a similar theme. And they're about a page long, 500 to 750 words per passage or pair of passages. And the topics are U.S. and world literature, history, social studies, and science. There will be 2 science passages or 1 science passage and a pair of science passages. And here's what they're testing you on. They will it's mainly reading comprehension. They will test you on your ability to determine explicit or implicit meanings, cite textual evidence, determine central ideas and themes, understand logical relationships, interpret words in context, analyze word choice, analyze text structure, analyze points of view, analyze purpose, analyze arguments, analyze quantitative information. Basically, they could throw in a pie chart or a bar graph, something like that would go along with your science passage, and they would expect you to be able to interpret that in the context of the passage. You wouldn't really have to perform any actual math with the table. They're not going to ask you to find the slope of a line, but you might have to compare it to the text and make some assertions. So the first thing we're going to talk about is U.S. founding documents and the Great Global Conversation. So this is basically what they're calling the civics on the SAT. I'm not sure why they chose this long-winded title. It's just civics. So it could be a founding document. Maybe they give you something by Jefferson or Hamilton, but it may not be a founding document. It could be a later work that just pertains to civics. Maybe it's the Gettysburg Address. Maybe I've seen paired passages, Lincoln-Douglas debates, where one passage was Abraham Lincoln and the other passage was Douglas, and they were arguing. So that's possible. It may not be a founding document. That's what I'm just trying to say. It could be a later work. It's just going to pertain to civics. Maybe it's, I don't know, Letter from a Birmingham Jail by Dr. King, or it could be the I Have a Dream speech. I'm just trying to prepare you that it may be a founding document, but it may be just something that comes a little bit later. So we're going to look at one. And this is about half the size of a real one, with half as many questions. An actual one would have 10 or 11 questions, and it would be twice as long as this. It'd be a whole page of text, about 700 words or so. But I'm just going to have you try this one. So try this small reading passage. It's mainly just reading comprehension. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to read this short passage. So this one is by Samuel Adams, and he most certainly was a founding father. So read this This is the report of the Committee of Correspondence to the Boston Town Meeting from November 20th, 1772. So read Mr. Adams' passage, and then see if you can answer the 5 questions below. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And also one more thing, if someone could just put done whenever you're finished with this in the chat room, or if everyone could, that will really help speed things along, because I won't be waiting for you guys. So you just say finished or done whenever you're finished with these 5 questions. So read the short passage and then answer the 5 questions, and we'll go over it together in a minute. Okay, Joe's finished. So Andy is also finished? Okay, so let's just jump into some of these questions. So they will test you on main ideas. If you see the words primary purpose, you should be thinking about main ideas. So the primary purpose of this passage is to do what? Does it establish the Constitution of the United States? Rationalize the actions of the British Parliament? Demand a reaction to the Boston Massacre? Or elaborate the rights of the colonists? So it's just reading comprehension, but we can probably eliminate some of these right away. So A, does it establish the Constitution of the United States? It's only 1772. So this document does not do that. There's nothing in there about the Constitution of the United States. B, is it pro-British in any kind of way? Does it rationalize the actions of the British Parliament? Of course not. Does it C, demand a reaction to the Boston Massacre, which has not happened yet? It's only 1772. No, it's just D. This document attempts to elaborate the rights of the colonists as understood by Samuel Adams. So we'll test you on main ideas. That was a textbook main idea question. Primary purpose. As used in line 16, the word seated most nearly means what? So this is how they test vocabulary now on the SAT. They've decided to test it in context. And there will be about 2 of these questions per passage or pair of passages. And then they call these tier 2 words. For many, many years, the SAT notoriously had difficult words on it. Quixotic, supercilious, perfidy. I'm trying to think of some other good examples. But anyway, we had to memorize all of those words for years and years and years and did lessons and lessons about them. They're no longer on the test. This is about as hard as it gets. To seed. They call these tier 2 words. So not too hard. We could probably figure out what the verb to seed means in the context of this sentence. I'm going to read the line and then we can try to figure out an answer that works. So let me just read it as written and then we'll go from there. Every natural right not expressly given up or from the nature of a social compact necessarily ceded remains. So we just have to figure out what the word ceded means in the context of this sentence. And for this type of question, very common SAT question, about 2 per passage, I like to read the words back into the sentence. Only one of them should work. The other answer choices will produce gibberish sentences. So let's try. Let's try borrowed. I'm going to read the word borrowed in place of the word ceded and see if it works. Every natural right not expressly given up or from the nature of a social compact necessarily borrowed remains. So that makes no sense. Let's try relinquish. Relinquished. Perhaps to cede means to relinquish. Every natural right not expressly given up or from the nature of a social compact necessarily relinquished remains. So that makes perfect sense. So to cede means to give something up, to relinquish it, and that makes sense in the context of the sentence. I like reading the words back in the sentence. It's a very good strategy, so I would recommend you do the same. Adams expressly indicates in the passage that all men have which one of these rights? Is it the pursuit of happiness, the right to enter into a social contract, the right to freedom of speech, or to mandate the state religion? So there are a few things going on in this question that make it a little bit tricky. And the first thing is this word expressly. So Adams expressly indicates in the passage. That means one of these, A, B, C, or D, he enumerates specifically, because of course Adams would agree that you have rights that he does not enumerate. This is a very short document. He would agree that you have some of these rights perhaps, but one of these is expressly in there. So I just want you to understand that this word expressly was not put into this question by mistake by the College Board. They want, their intention is for you to go find one of these in there. So the pursuit of happiness, that's a different document for Adams. Sorry, I'm moving around so much. It appears to be first a right to life, second to liberty, and thirdly to property. So life, liberty, and property. So the pursuit of happiness is not in this document. C. All right, let's start with D. mandate the state religion. So you might be tempted to pick D, but what is a mandate? A mandate is a requirement. So if we mandate the state religion, that would mean that we require you to worship a particular deity, which goes completely against what he says. What Adam says is that every man living in or out a state of civil society has a right peaceably and quietly to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience. So we cannot mandate the state religion. There is also nothing in this document about freedom of speech. It's just B. Adams believes that the colonists have the right to enter into a social contract if they so desire. And now we have to find the evidence for that question for number 4. So this is a new type of question that they added when they redesigned the test in 2016. So now you have to find the evidence for the answer to the previous question. They're basically testing your ability to cite textual evidence. Imagine you were writing, I don't know, a book report, and what if you're writing a paper about Samuel Adams in the Committee of Correspondence to the Boston Town Meeting? Could you cite evidence? Imagine that we put this in our essay. Adams indicates in his Committee of Correspondence to the Boston Town Hall meeting that colonists have the right to enter into social contracts. You could not just put that into your essay without citing it. So now we have to cite where that information came from for question 4. Could you do this if you had to write a report on Samuel Adams? That's sort of what they're testing you on, I think. And this occurs for number 4 in answer choice B, lines 10 through 14. So I'm going to read those lines. When men enter into society, it is by voluntary consent, and they have a right to demand and insist upon the performance of such conditions and previous limitations as form an equitable original compact. A compact is a contract. It's the same thing. So that is the evidence for number 3 that the colonists have this right to enter into a social contract according to Adams. And I just hunted it down in the passage. It's not too hard. You just have to reread lines 4 through 7 until you find the right one. So it's reading comprehension. I like to say of the reading comprehension, the answers are somewhere on the page in front of you. Okay, let's look at this last one. In the passage, Adams expresses which of the following with regard to natural laws and civil laws. So hopefully you remember this part of the passage. This occurs up in that second column on the top of the page. I'll read it. I'm going to read what Adams wrote, and then we have to find in A, B, C, or D the best paraphrase of the original source document. I'm going to read from the source document. Here's Adams speaking. All positive and civil laws should conform as far as possible to the laws of natural reason and equity. That's like around line 18 or so. So pretty much answer choice B is just a restatement of what I just read. When possible, civil laws should comply with natural laws. So yeah, of the reading comprehension, I like to say that the answers are on the page in front of you somewhere. You read them. You read the answer. You read where Adams talked about civil laws and natural laws. Can you retain it? Can you answer all those questions? Can you retain it all the way to question 5? If you've missed it, could you go back and find it? It's reading comprehension. You've been doing it forever in school. So that's the reading section. But the second section of the SAT is the writing section. So let's turn to that now. Okay, so the writing section is a little bit different. Primarily, they're testing you on grammar. It's shorter. It's only 35 minutes long, but there are 44 questions. So there are plenty of questions to do in this section. It just goes a little bit faster because mainly you're just correcting really sloppy grammar. So it's passage based, just like the reading. So it consists of 4 passages, and they're a little bit shorter. They're only 400 to 450 words per passage. The topics are similar but a little bit different. Here are the topics: careers, history, social studies, humanities, and science. And mainly they're testing you on grammar, but they are also testing you on conventions of composition and style, revision, those sorts of things. So here we go. They will test you on main ideas, revisions, and support, sentence formation. So what is a sentence? A sentence is a complete thought. What is the simplest sentence I could form? Something like Mike goes, period, would be a sentence. That is a complete thought. It has punctuation, it has a subject, it has a predicate, it has a verb, it has everything. Mike goes, period. That's a sentence. So some sentences, some things may not be actual sentences that you see on the SAT. They are sentence fragments. Although they are punctuated as sentences, they are not sentences. So just watch out for fragments. They will test you on subordination and coordination. So they'll test you on clauses, subordinating conjunctions, coordinating conjunctions. We'll go over all of those in a lesson. They'll test you on parallel structure, modifiers. They'll test you on shifts in verb, tense, mood, voice, and pronoun, person, and number. The test is very pronoun heavy, pronoun antecedent agreement, subject-verb agreement. These are very important. They'll test you on possessives. They will test you on frequently confused words. Could be a homonym or homophone. These are words that sound similar. The weather outside today versus whether or not you feel like doing something. It could be there, and there. The contraction they are, T-H-E-R-E or T-H-E-I-R. These are words that sound similar. They're used very differently in English. One is a plural possessive pronoun. One is either an adverb or an expletive. And the other one is just a contraction. They are. So those are all over the test. You've seen those before on Keystones and elsewhere. So watch out for frequently confused words, logical comparisons. They will test you on that. Conventions of punctuation. How is a semicolon used? I guarantee you will see a semicolon used incorrectly on test day. Can you fix it? College Board, they love semicolons for some reason. I think that they think that seniors and juniors in high school, for whatever reason, they see a semicolon, they'll just freeze up in the headlights. But you will not do that after this course. You'll know exactly how to use the colon, which is similar to but different from a semicolon. So we're going to go over all those punctuation rules, comma rules, everything you need to know. Parenthetical information, asides, every type of punctuation you'll see. Strong dashes, idioms, and again, they could throw in a graph or a chart, and they'll expect you to compare that to the text. Could you fix it? Could you fix the information in the text to reflect what is actually in the passage that you just read based on the chart? So we're going to look at one. Let's look at an SAT writing passage. And this is a mini one, just like we did last time, because today is more of an overview. This is half the size of a real one with half as many questions. A real one would have 11 questions. They all have 11 questions. And it would be a little bit longer, about twice as long as this. All right, so again, I'm going to have you try to answer questions 1 through 5 to the right as you look at the text to the left. This one is about cell biology researchers. And I want to just clarify 1 or 2 things before you even start this. Those big solid blocks, those are the question numbers. The numbered blocks are the questions. I only mention this because you also see some bracketed numbers in paragraph number 2. All they did was sequence the sentences in that paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to need to perhaps add something. It looks for question 5. You would have to add a new sentence somewhere. So just don't confuse that. When I first looked at these, I was confused by the numbering system until I realized that the big blocky numbers are the question numbers, and then these bracketed numbers later on that you're going to see here, they only pertain to question 5. They just numbered those sentences. So take about 5 minutes, and again, if you could put in the chat room whenever you finish, just say done or finished, and see if you can answer these 5 to the right for this SAT writing passage. So take some time to do that, and we will go over it together. All right, Patrick's done, I think. And he's also done. All right. So it seems like people are finishing up. So let's go over them. So let's look at the first one. And this is how they test vocabulary on the writing section, which is similar to how they test it on the reading section. They test it in context. So I'm going to read the sentence as written, and then we can determine if we want to change it. We could leave it as written. That would be answer choice A. And every now and then, maybe 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 times, it will be A. So just be aware of that. I'm going to read the sentence as written. Here we go. In order to pursue a career in this field, cell biologists must be adept with modern technologies, such as data mining and imaging spectroscopy, in order to impact their research forward. So we have a few different options here. Does impact quite fit? Does a different word that we are given fit a little bit better? Let's start with C, impede. Would you ever want to impede your own research? No, right? So we can let's eliminate C immediately. Dispel doesn't kind of make much sense. Dispel means to spread out. So I don't think that works. Really, the nicest fit here, an impact is a collision between two things. The car impacted the other car. So you couldn't really impact your research forward. However, you could propel it forward. That's a better word. And you see how they pick a near word? The College Board likes to pick a word that almost fits. So just be aware of that. That is the strategy of the College Board test writer. They'll take a word like impact, but propel fits better. So that's a vocabulary question. Let's look at number 2. Utilizing techniques found in other disciplines, such as programming and statistics, data must be extracted and analyzed by scientists for significant results. So this question is what's known as a dangling participle. In this case, it's actually a dangling participial phrase, but it's the same idea. So I'm going to explain this. You've probably seen these before, though. So what's a participle? Let's start with that. Well, a participle is simply a verb. In English, there are present participles and there are past participles. They're just verbs. And in this sentence, the verb is the word utilizing. However, we are dangling that participle utilizing. So we can take some words and we can add them to our participle and we can make a participial phrase. That's perfectly fine. So we can take the word utilizing, we can add some words to it, make a phrase. Utilizing techniques found in other disciplines, comma, such as programming and statistics, comma. But here we have a problem. Data must be extracted and analyzed by scientists for significant results. So we are dangling this participle utilizing because participles can act as modifiers. I know this is, I'm going to try to explain this in a simpler way in a second. I just want to give you the actual English teacher, explanation first. And then I'll give you an easy shorthand way to solve these types of questions. So utilizing is a participle. We can add words to it, but we can modify a word in the sentence using this participle. So what are modifiers? An example of a modifier would be an adjective. So I can take happy, I can put happy in front of puppy. Now we have the happy puppy. I've modified puppy. In this sentence, we've used the word utilizing and we're modifying data, which is a problem because here's the easy way that I like to explain these to students. Can data, which are numbers, can data utilize anything? Can data utilize techniques found in other disciplines? No. Numbers can't utilize anything. They are not the utilizers. Who are the utilizers? Well, the only people who could possibly utilize anything in this whole passage, let alone this sentence, would be the scientists. So utilizing techniques found in other disciplines, such as programming and statistics, comma, scientists, answer choice C, must extract and analyze their data for significant results. This is on every SAT. The College Board loves dangling participles. I don't know why. I guarantee you will see this. If you take the November SAT, if you take the December SAT, you will see dangling participles just like this. So I tried to break it down for you and explain it in a couple different ways, but you will see it. So that's why we went over it. There's nothing in this course that you will not need. 3, nevertheless, collaboration between biomedical researchers and clinicians is vital to advancing new therapies that will improve patient care. So for question 3, they will test you on transitional words and phrases. We've put them all in a lesson for you, so we've gone over all the transitions you will ever likely see on the SAT. That's in our composition and style lesson, so don't worry about it. I just want to explain to you again how the College Board sort of writes this type of question. What they do is they write these passages normally first. They write them impeccably with good grammar, everything makes sense, and then they mess them up. And all they do for the transitions, they just change them. So they write it normally. They'll write it with additionally collaboration between biomedical researchers and clinicians is vital to advancing new therapies that will improve patient care. But then they'll give you some different transitions. They'll give you a however or a notwithstanding. And they expect you to know the difference in logic between a notwithstanding and a moreover or a nevertheless. We're going to go over all the types of transitions that you are likely to see on the SAT. They will test you on these. And for answer choice 3, additionally fits better. We don't need the logic of a nevertheless or a notwithstanding. These are adversarial transitions. We just need a nice additive transition. We're moving in the same direction. We don't need to move in the opposite direction. So we will just use a nice additive transition such as additionally. Let's throw that in there. Additionally, collaboration between biomedical researchers and clinicians is vital to advancing new therapies that will improve patient care. There are 4 main types of transitions that you will encounter on the SAT, and we will go all over those in our composition and style lesson. So number 4, I'm going to read this sentence. Here we go. Other cell biologists may use their research to advance pharmacology, developing new drugs for cancer and other debilitating illnesses on top of that. Okay, so for number 4, we have a few different options. We could leave the on top of that. We could put in likewise, in addition, or we could delete those 4 words. And I want to introduce a concept right now because we are going to see it time and time again. The College Board hates wordiness. If there are extra words that you can eliminate from your sentence that aren't really doing much for it, say at the end, you probably should. The College Board likes the simple way of phrasing something. It's gotten to the point where I count the number of words in the answer choices, and I start with a concise answer choice, and I work my way back to the wordy answer choice, which is probably the incorrect answer choice. So for number 4, let's just delete these words and see if this is a better sentence. And the College Board would argue that this is a better sentence. You should not have wordiness in your writing. You should have concision in your writing. Other cell biologists may use their research to advance pharmacology, developing new drugs for cancer and other debilitating illnesses, period. That is the correct sentence according to the College Board. So even likewise, even an extra word is unnecessary here. So B would be incorrect, C would be incorrect. We just want to delete those words. All right, so number 5, here's a sequencing question. So all they have done is they have sequenced these sentences in paragraph 2, and it says the author is considering adding the following sentence. So there are a few different styles of this sequencing question. Sometimes they'll say something like the author is considering removing sentence 3, should he or she do this? The author is considering moving sentence 4, where does it go? But in this case, we're adding a new sentence. Where should it be placed within the paragraph? And I like to say that these sequencing questions always have a clue within the sentence as to where it lives within the paragraph. So there will always be a clue. And in this case, here's your clue. These 3 words I'm about to read. These clinical trials. That's your clue. These clinical trials. So because that's our clue, and because that's in our sentence, this new sentence, must immediately follow the sentence that discusses the clinical trials. So that's all we have to do. Let's just find the sentence that talks about clinical trials. It looks like it is sentence 3. I'm going to read it. Others may assist in designing clinical trials and assess blood or tissue samples from patients involved in such experimental medicine. So now we have the new sentence that the author is considering adding. And once I've settled on a place for it, once I've said, okay, I'm going to put it after sentence 3, I always read them back to back. Always read it in its new home, and it should fit like a glove. It should make perfect sense, and it'll just fit like a little Tetris piece. So I'm gonna do it right now just so you can see. Others may assist in designing clinical trials and assess blood or tissue samples from patients involved in such experimental medicine. These clinical trials may hold the key to discovering novel pathogens or identifying molecular information vital to the diagnosis and treatment of patients. So for number 5, that would be C. We would place that after sentence 3. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. But that's the writing section. So that's just the general idea here. Mainly they are grammar rules. There's a little bit of vocabulary, a little bit of composition, a little bit of conventions of revision, style, composition, that sort of thing. But mainly they're just grammar rules that you can remember. And remember that the College Board hates wordiness. Count the words in the answer choices. All right, let's talk about the SAT essay. So this is our last English topic to cover today. Today's just an overview, so we're going to do a little bit of an overview on the SAT essay. Well, the SAT essay is optional. So some universities require it, some universities and colleges recommend it, and other universities and colleges neither recommend nor require the SAT essay. So you can sign up for 2 versions of the test. You can sign up for SAT with essay, or you can sign up for SAT without essay. The SAT with essay is a little bit more expensive. I think it's about $20 more maybe, because they have to pay 2 English teachers to grade your essay digitally. So that costs money. So that's why it's slightly more expensive. You cannot just add the SAT essay later if it turns out that a particular school that you're interested in requires the SAT essay. You would have to sit for the entire test again and then write the SAT essay. So I just want you to be very careful and select the right version of the test to sit for. I wouldn't sit for an extra 50-minute essay if I didn't have to. Well, yeah, let's just take a 3-hour test and make it a 4-hour test. That sounds like a great idea. So I wouldn't write the SAT essay if I didn't have to. So that will depend on the schools that you are applying to. So to give you some examples from some schools around here, let's take Penn State main campus where I went. They do not require the SAT essay. So if you apply to attend Penn State, you will not have to sit for the SAT essay. Most schools do not require the SAT essay, we've found. Some smaller liberal arts colleges seem to require it. Perhaps some more competitive schools, Ivy League maybe, require the SAT essay. Certainly, many schools have their own admissions essays that you will have to write in the application or in a common application. So just be aware that that's what the SAT essay is. So all you have to do is you just want to go onto the College Board website, collegeboard.org, or even just Google this. If you Google College Board SAT essay policies, it's the first thing that comes up on the College Board website. It's a search engine. You can type in states, you can type in schools, and it will tell you up-to-date information. Does the school require or recommend the SAT essay, or does the school neither require nor recommend the SAT essay? So you'll find that out on collegeboard.org. But if you have to write the SAT essay, it's not the end of the world, because we will go exactly over how you would write an SAT essay in this course if you have to. This will help you with your essay writing in general. This will help with your writing for high school and college, so this will be a useful exercise. So it's 50 minutes to write the essay. It is passage-based, just like all of the English on the test. You are graded in 3 different categories. You are graded on your comprehension of the source text, the depth of your analysis, and your command of the English language. So it's passage-based. So basically they give you a source document, and then you will read this SAT essay prompt that I will read, and then you'll write your response. But in the interest of time, we didn't actually include JFK's source passage today. We are not going to read the source passage for an essay. We're just mainly going to talk about the SAT essay prompt, which are the instructions, and how you would structure your SAT essay response. Paragraph structure, introduction, body, conclusion, that sort of thing. So in the interest of time, we are not reading this speech by JFK, although it is a good one. But I'm going to read this SAT essay prompt because here is the great news. If you have to write the SAT essay, this essay prompt never changes. It always looks exactly like this. What changes are the source documents. So instead of a document by JFK, maybe you have a document by, I don't know, Martin Luther King, Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr. maybe. All you will know is that the passage will be an argument. John F. Kennedy's passage is an argument. And whatever passage you're given will be an argument because you are being asked to perform a rhetorical analysis. And we'll get to what that is in a second, but you've probably already done it in English class. So you're already probably ahead of the curve anyway. So I'm going to read the prompt. Directions. As you read the passage below, consider how the author uses evidence, such as facts or examples, to support claims, reasoning to develop ideas and to connect claims and evidence, stylistic or persuasive elements, such as word choice or appeals to emotion, to add power to the ideas expressed. Assignment. Write an essay in which you explain how the author built an argument to persuade his audience to increase funding for space exploration. So that must have been what JFK's passage was about. That was his argument. Increase funding for space exploration. But you may be reading someone else's different argument. You might be reading an argument about global warming. It's just all you know is it will be an argument. It will be persuasive writing that you're reading. In your essay, analyze how the author uses one or more of the features mentioned, or features of your own choice, to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the most relevant aspects of the passage. Your essay should not explain whether you agree with the author's claims, but rather explain how the author builds his or her argument. So that's the prompt, and it never changes. It always looks just like that. So let's talk about crafting an effective SAT essay. So the College Board has decided to test you on rhetoric. Rhetoric is the art of making arguments. Luckily, we know a lot about rhetoric. It is a formal discipline. It has been studied for thousands of years. Aristotle famously wrote about rhetoric. So we can give you some tools to help you perform a rhetorical analysis of an argument on test day if you have to write this essay. But let's talk about essay structure, because today is more of an overview. We're not writing an essay today. We're not even reading a source passage today, really. But I did want to talk about your essay structure because your essay must follow a particular structure if you want a good score. And none of this was in the instruction, but I'm telling you this now. Your essay must include an introduction, some supporting paragraphs, this is known as the body of your paper, and a conclusion in order for you to receive a good score. Your thesis is what you're trying to prove, and based on the essay prompt, your thesis, what you're trying to prove, will encompass what JFK is trying to prove, if that makes sense. Okay, so you're going to have a thesis in your introduction, you're going to have some supporting paragraphs and a conclusion if you want a good score. What happens if you don't follow this format? What if you just submitted a big blob of text? No indentation, no paragraph structure whatsoever. You're automatically at a 1 out of 4 for one of those 3 categories that I just went over, which is really bad. They consider that an F. So you need to have this structure. That's why I wanted to go over your essay structure today. Do not just write a big blob of text. They will really, really negatively affect your score if you do that. All right, in his address to Congress, JFK constructs his argument to persuade his audience to increase funding for space exploration through an appeal to the American ideals of freedom, peace, and discovery. So this would work as a nice sample thesis. This would go somewhere toward the end of your introduction, maybe even the last sentence of your introduction if you so desire. But this thesis we will be referring back to as we write our paragraphs. So I would imagine it wouldn't be very strange to see a paragraph about this American ideal of freedom as opposed to perhaps a Soviet system. So American, perhaps let me reread this. He constructs his argument to persuade his audience to increase funding for space exploration through an appeal to the American ideals of freedom, peace, and discovery. Okay, so we're qualifying this as an American ideal. So perhaps the democratic system, perhaps the United States needs to assert itself in the space race in order to promote this Western ideal of democracy, perhaps, again, compared to some other system, a Soviet system, perhaps. And then we'll have a paragraph about how the United States must assert itself in the space race in order to preserve the peace with the Soviet Union. It just sounds terrifying. Russians, rockets, space. This was a very different time. I wasn't alive at the time during the Cold War, but there was a very real fear. They pretty much thought that nuclear war would be inevitable between these two superpowers. So I'd throw in a paragraph. What's the difference between a rocket with a person at the end of it versus a rocket with a payload at the end of it? Nothing. Zero difference when it comes to our physics equations. So maybe a paragraph about that, and then a paragraph about this American ideal of discovery. I think famously in this speech, Kennedy says something to the extent that reaching the moon may one day bring mankind to the edge of the solar system. So we would have some supporting paragraphs that refer back to these elements of our thesis. That's what I'm trying to drive home here. And if we have an introduction, a conclusion, and 3 of these paragraphs, it's already looking like something you've probably written a million of in school. Yes, I just did it, sort of. We just did it. We just made a 5-paragraph essay. But there's a reason why a 5-paragraph essay would probably work pretty well for this assignment. The same people who are going to grade your essay have been assigning 5-paragraph essays for their entire careers. They're just English teachers. Retired English teachers are grading essays. So I'm not limiting you to that. You could write a 6-paragraph essay. I'm sure you could write a very good 4-paragraph essay. If you had enough quotation and paraphrase from JFK's source passage, it could be done. I bet you could write a very, 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 very convincing essay, a very good essay with 4 paragraphs. But I'm going to say 4 to 6 paragraphs. Somewhere in there, you should be able to do that within 50 minutes. That's plenty of time. The old SAT essay, the one they replaced, they gave you 25 minutes to write it. It was insane. I don't know how they ever thought someone could write a coherent argument in 25 minutes. So they doubled the time. So that was a nice improvement that they really, I think when they redesigned the SAT, the most improvements were made to the essay, in my opinion. Okay, so your conclusion merely creates closure. It's clear to me that this essay is over. I can go grade another one. They have to grade 7 of these an hour if they want to receive paychecks from the College Board. So they're just thinking number. What number should I give this essay? So it'll be read by 2 different people. Each scorer will award 1 to 4 points in 3 categories. There's a reading category, an analysis category, and a writing category. The scores are therefore combined up to a theoretical 24. That'd be the highest score you could get. That means you got a 4 from the one SAT score, essay score, and you also received a 4 from the other essay scorer. That would be an incredible essay. I would love to read that essay. Anyway, here are the categories. This is the exact College Board rubric. This is exactly what they use to grade your SAT essay, and this would be for a 4. This would be for the highest score that they give you. So this is the College Board rubric. I'm not really going to get into it today just because we are going to have that SAT essay lesson coming up, and we will go over this in more detail. Also, we started a little bit later because of that tech glitch. So I'm actually just going to give you guys a 5-minute break. We covered up, we've done an overview of all of the English on the SAT. So we've done the reading section, we looked at the writing section, and now we looked at the optional essay. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to hand you back to Mrs. Hessler for a little bit more math. So let me just bring up a whiteboard here and just say 5 minutes. Take a 5-minute break. You can use the restroom, get a snack or a glass of water. We will be back at, let's say, 4:31. Okay, so take 5, and we'll be back in a little bit.
said, do you respond?
No.
You checked?
I just, I don't know. I think we just do our own thing.
What do you?
She says 7.
She
It's
can
a
be
little
here.
late.
No, that's still good for us. No?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to see her. We're so isolated out here.
That's all you say.
You don't want to. You have to be my net.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
do you want to just tell Dad what you want?
I'm working on it.
Oh.
The time?
Yeah. Where's he ordering from?
The million?
The soft taco. Or the 3 beans. Three different beans. Okay. Can we? All right. So if you could just let us know that you're back. We were normally we would have been done at 5, but we're going to be a little extended today because
5:30 maybe.
of our glitch. So just let me know if you're back with us. Thanks, Joe. And we're going to be dealing with the Heart of Algebra 1 packet. Thanks, Annie. Patrick's back too. So just get out the Heart of Algebra 1 packet. Okay, everybody's back. That's wonderful. We're going to have a couple more people join us next time, but what we need is the Heart of Algebra 1 packet, which should be in your box. And you're basically getting our entire class. The only thing different from a live class is normally we would have you come and sit and test with you, have you take a test with us, but we're going to have to trust you to take a test at home. That's going to be next Sunday's assignment, so we won't have a class next Sunday. You're going to be taking a practice test anytime that you're fresh. And these are actual College Board tests in the Blue Book, so you'll be taking the actual real thing. So that's, and then we just grade it. It's not, doesn't count at all officially for anything, but you just sort of see, we plot your progress. And as I mentioned, if I know you have your parents invested in this, and it's probably one of the more, you'll be telling your grandchildren, hopefully there will be no more pandemics when they're here, and you'll be telling them your SAT score. So we're going on to constructing algebra models. That's the first page in the Heart of Algebra 1 packet. And this says, the SAT will ask you to construct an algebraic model that represents a real-world scenario. Answer choices may also be in function notation. So if you look at our example, we always put the examples in gray. Tom is X years old. Susan's age is 3 years less than 7 times Tom's age. How many years old is Susan in terms of X? So we will just say Susan is 7X minus 3. So let's look at number 1 in the packet. Okay. Melissa paid $80 last month to her health club, and she visited the club at least once last month. If she visited the club X times, what was her cost per visit in terms of X? So using our strategy of picking numbers, you don't have to do it on this one, obviously, but we're going to show you a harder one. So let's say she went 8 times to the health club. Okay, so that should be $10 a time, correct? So what answer will kick out $10 a time when I put 8 in for X? And I'll let you just look at that. And it's obviously going to be D, right? So if you picked A, that would be whatever our X was, $8. Our X was, we wouldn't get $10 a time because our X was 8. We need to get, and B would be way too much. If she paid that, she would be paying a whole lot of money for one visit, which wouldn't make sense. Let's look at 2. This is a popular question on the test. Courtney attends college 580 miles from home. She assumes she can make the trip home in 10 hours driving at an average speed of 58 miles per hour. What function represents how many miles Courtney is from home after she has been driving for X hours at 58 miles per hour? So we have to know this formula, which they don't give you, by the way. Y equals mx plus b. This is always your y-intercept. Is that going to be on the picture? Let me see. I have to work within my dog fence here. And this is the important thing because this is our rate. So if she's starting 580 miles from home and she's going at 58 miles per hour, how many miles is she from home after she's been driving for X hours at 58 miles per hour? Well, the answer will be, our B would be 580. And her time is obviously decreasing at 58 miles per hour. That's our rate. And so the answer for this one will be C. And we've seen questions like this many times on the test. Let's go to the next page. Okay, there are page numbers on this, yay. So we're going to go to page 3. A paper towel dispenser gives an 8-inch length of paper towel each time a sensor is activated. Which of the following functions X gives the total number of inches of paper towels dispensed in N, the number of times the sensor is activated? So if we hit the sensor 2 times, obviously we'll have a 16-inch length of paper towel. And so that would be answer choice B. And you might say, well, Mrs. Hessler, I don't need to pick a number for that one. And I get it, but we're going to be doing some harder ones. And it's just a strategy I want you to have in your weapons case or your toolbox for when you hit harder questions, just to be comfortable with that strategy. Okay, we're now going to question 4. So we're just translating all those English words into a math expression. So the sum of x and 4 is less than the difference between is less than the square of the difference between x and 4, but greater, wait, this should be the other way.
Yeah, x plus 4.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But greater than the square of 1/2 x. Now here's my question, because what we're trying to do here a lot is just hone your math skills. Do I have to square the 1/2 since it's in the parentheses? And the resounding answer is yes. So that would be 1/4 x squared is less than x plus 4, which is less than x minus 4 squared. So that's just an example of translating English words into a math equation. Let's go on to question 5. Jim's looking at the chat room for me. In case anybody has a question, just say question, So he's watching that. The time t, and I know word problems always cause everybody a little consternation, and that's the goal of this section right here, is that they will be less intimidating and you'll be able to work with them very easily. The time t required to pick apples varies directly to the number of bushels of apples to be picked b, and inversely to the number of people picking apples p. Using the k as the constant of variation, this situation can best be modeled by which of the following expressions? So direct variation, I just want to go over these. You've had this in science all the time. So direct variation is like this, right? As one thing gets bigger, the other thing gets bigger, like Charles's law with gases and temperature. So that's going to be, so the more bushels they pick, the longer the time will be. But the inverse variation, and again, you've had this in science classes, as one thing goes up, the other thing goes down. And that's like Boyle's law in science. If the volume decreases, the temperature the other way, it's the other way than it is here. Okay, so that will be inverse. The more people we have, the less time, and so it's beginning to look like a lot of like answer choice C for that question. Okay, so that's number 5. Okay, choosing numbers, and this is a highlight of our strategy about picking numbers. And again, where it can come in handy is at the end of the test when you're totally maybe not sure, or you want to monitor your answer. So let's look at this question. Angela has X photographs. So let's say she has 10 photographs, and her photo album can hold 3 on a page. And you could pick anything you want with this, and you don't have to draw the picture I did below. I'm doing all this just to equip you really with this strategy so that you have it to use on test day. So there's going to be, so obviously if we have 10 photos and we're putting 3 on a page, we will have 3 pages and Z will be 1 left over, right? So that's not so bad. So how many pages are in the album? So we know we want to get 3. So let's try each answer. Whoops, I can't write it there. I'll just do it right here. Hopefully that's on. You can see that when it comes. I know there's a little delay with the time. Okay, so would it be answer choice A? Would it be x plus c? Would it be 11 over 3? No, that doesn't work. Let's try B. Would it be 13 over 1? No, that doesn't work. We want to get out 3. Would it be C? 10 minus 1 over 10 minus 3, which is 7 over 1? No. So it has to be D, but let's prove it. It's going to be 10 minus Z, which is 1, over 3 will equal 3. Thank you, College Board. We have the answer. So like I said, we're always starting pretty simply with the merry-go-round, but as we go through, this is a strategy we want to equip you with. So let's go to the next page. So we're now on page 5 in the packet. And again, we apologize for our tech glitch at the beginning. You guys are probably used to that. I don't know. At some point, I'll find out from you if you're going to school live or if you're hybrid or if you're online. But this handles the COVID slide, they call it. If you lost anything because you were out of school for a while. Let's look at question 1 on page 5. So, the rate for a telephone call between city A and B is 50 cents for the first minute and 20 cents for each additional minute or portion thereof. Which of the following functions describes the cost in dollars of a phone call between the two cities that lasts for n minutes? So what I want to do is have you pick an n, and don't pick a million, and don't pick a number with a fraction. Just pick a nice small integer, and then see what your phone call would cost, and then see what the right answer choice is. And if you put your answer in the chat room, that would be awesome.
Tell them that we'd be leaving these videos up.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be leaving these videos up. So if you miss a class, you can go on, but we really like you to be here live. But if you miss a class, they're going to be saved on Eaton Prep, the YouTube thing. You can just, okay, so we have an answer. We have B. Liam thinks it's B. Anybody else have an answer? Is that a penguin he has as an icon there?
Maybe.
Liam, I'm just wondering, is that a penguin that's your icon? I know, it's so weird that we're not in a live classroom.
Well, we kind of are.
Well, we are. Yeah, we are. Yeah. Okay. Liam, what number did you pick for N? Joe is right. So, Liam, what number was your N? Okay. So his N was 2. Let's try that. So the first minute will be 50 cents. And then 20 cents for every of the other minute. So that's 20.
70 cents.
So your call, this is for Liam, would be 70 cents. But you were saying...
N is 2.
Yeah, N is 2. if we picked B, do you see your call would be 90 cents? So B, if you picked B, that would be 90 cents, and we don't want that. We want 70 cents. So do you see your answer is C? This is for Liam, and I'm hoping that Anna and Patrick are processing this, got C.
You're a little low there.
Oh, I'm a little low. Yeah.
Just clear it. Or...
Yeah. Well, I want to keep it. Mm-hmm. So the answer is C. Does that make sense now? And did Liam, does that make sense? So they sort of trapped you into picking B, but you have to subtract the first minute. So that's why this picking numbers. Okay, good question. Liam asked, why do we want it to be 70 cents? Because you told me that your call was 2 minutes. And then you also told, so that a 2-minute call, according to their directions, would be 50 cents for the first minute, and then 20 cents for the next minute. So your call has to be 70 cents. Does that make sense? I'm just applying the law for the telephone call. Does that make sense now? So that's why we have to have it be C, and we have to subtract the minute. So Liam, does that help why your call has to be 70 cents? Okay, good. Let me just ask Patrick and Anna, did you also get C? Okay, great. So this is a good strategy for, it's going to take maybe a couple more lessons till you get from, yes, good Patrick. And what about Annie? Annie somewhere in Mount Lebanon. Okay. So anyway, great. All right. So anyway, let's go to number 2. So again, this is a good strategy to monitor your work. It also can work in hard algebra questions. So we're looking at number 2. For every $10 Nakia earns, she gives $4 to her younger sister, Jasmine, who helps her. Which of the following gives the relationship between D, the dollars Nakia earns, and J, the money she gives to Jasmine? Well, D is 10, and then let's call J 4. So let's try answer choice A. Does 10 equal 4 times 4 over 10? Not on this planet, right? Let's try B. Does 10 equal 10 times 4 over 4? And yes, so that's a winner. So the answer for this one is B. I've had people go on to use this strategy on their math tests at school. Now, no math teacher will show you how to do this because they technically want to be always. So on this test, let me explain this. So to get your nice 800 math score, which we had a couple told me on Saturday, you can go through the math door. And that's the way your math teacher wanted you to do it. But if you can't go through the math door, you can also go through a strategy door, right? So that's the whole point of this, is to equip you so you can do that. And on a hard question, it's a lot of algebra, you can still go through this door and get the answer. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, great. Let's try 3 now. Question 3 on page 5. So the price of 10 apples, let's just say D is 10. So I'm picking a nice reasonable number. So every pound is $1. Okay. 6 of the apples weigh an average of 1 pound. What of the following would be a price in cents of a dozen such apples? Okay, so 1 pound is $1. Okay, so we want to have a dozen apples. So a dozen apples would be 2 pounds, and that would be $2. Hopefully that's not too hard to follow. Again, you probably didn't face a lot of these questions in your math curriculum. That's why I'm equipping you with this strategy. So it's $2, which in cents would be 200, right? So what answer will give us 200 when I put 10 in for D? So let's start with A. So using the answer choices is another strategy we're going to show you. So here, 20 times 10. Bingo, that works. And so our answer is answer choice A. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. So now we're going on to page 6. And Jimmy's in the chat room watching, if anybody has a question. Now this one is very difficult. This would be, they always have to have a couple in the end zone to, but now it's a lot easier to get an 800, trust me, than it was years ago. Okay, let's dive into this one. To celebrate a colleague's birthday and coworkers. So let's say we have 5 coworkers. And they're going out to a lunch, and let's say the lunch costs $100. That's pretty, so it's $20 a lunch. If C of the coworkers failed to contribute, so we have some cheap people, that's why this is was the hardest question on an SAT. So let's just say 2 people are cheap and they won't pay anything. What is the extra amount in dollars that each of the remaining coworkers must contribute to pay for the lunch? Okay, so let's say we have 2 cheap. That means that $100, which was our lunch, this is the cost of our lunch, divided by 3 people is $33.33 basically. So each person now has to pay $20 more.
$13 more.
I know.
Yeah.
$13.33 more than they did before. And so this is a great thing for taking this abstract, crazy algebra and bringing it down to concrete reality. So we need an answer that's $13.33. So again, we're going to work the answer choices. Let's try A. A would be X, which is $100 over the number of lunches 5. That's $20 a lunch. That's not $13.33. Okay, let's try B. We have X, which is 100 over N minus C, which is 3. Tempting, but that's the 33.33. So that doesn't work. So C, we have $100 over 5 minus 2, which is 3 over 5, and 300 over 5, that's not going to work. So let's try D, C times X. So that's 200, 2 times 100, all over 5 times 5 minus 2, which is 3, and 200 over 15. Voila, that's going to give us 13.33, which is the right answer. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, my D sort of slipped down there. So that would be extremely hard, but it would be very hard on your brain to think about what to do with every variable, where in this case, you can just pick a number and see how it transitions. We're going to do number 5 together, and then I'm going to let you do 6. Okay, so 5 is a telephone company charges X cents for the first minute. So let's just say 50 cents. I guess we'll put it in terms of cents, so we'll just have 50. And any additional minute is a quarter, let's say. 25 cents. So if call is $7.75, let's see how much that would, how many minutes that call would be. This is looking at it a little bit different. So we have 50 minutes for the first call. Then we divide that by 25 cents, and we will get 30 minutes for the call. So we're trying.
29.
What?
You took
25 and divided
Well,
it.
you took $7.75 and you took 50 cents off for the first minute.
Right. Then it's 7.20.
$7.25 divided by 25 is 29.
Yeah, but then we have to add that. Sorry, I should have shown that. So that's 29 minutes.
Oh, and that first minute was the 30.
So that
Okay,
makes
gotcha.
total is 30. This would be an end zone problem. But like I said, my goal is that you start to feel a little comfortable using this strategy because nobody taught you to do it before. So let's go through the answers. Hopefully I can put these up here and you can see them. There's a little delay with the technology. So A would be 775 minus 50 over Y, which is 25. That's only going to be 29 minutes. That's an A trap, classic A trap. So that's not going to work. They always like to put the traps in A. So that's just a test strategy. So 775 plus X minus Y over Y, that won't work either. But look at C. C is 775 minus 50, which would get us to 725 plus 25 all over 25. So we do have 725 divided by 25, which comes out to 30. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. So that answer was C. So again, I'm just trying to get you comfortable.
It's a 750 by 30. Wait.
No, I subtract.
Hold on.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
may be right. Yes, 750 divided by
25.
So that
Give you
works.
30. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get you comfortable with the strategy, slow but sure. So I would like everybody to try 6. So if you would try answer choice 6, pick a number for your pants. Figure out what your shirts would cost. There's 2 of them. And then see what answer kicks out. So I'd like you to try number 6. And then just put your answer in the chat room. No pressure. We're just... I'm just trying to see how that you're engaged here. But I know this is a smart group. And I apologize, we're going a little over today because the difficulty was obviously we had yes, Joe, yes. Joe and Liam and Patrick. Let's see what Annie gets. You guys are probably virtual students, very used to this. Oh, great. Okay, so I'm not even going to do it. Let's go on to the next page. Okay, we're now on page 7. This is awesome. A bright group of people. So let's look at the gray example. There's usually one of these on every problem, and so we just want it to be a surefire 10 points. You don't have to solve the problem, you just have to get the correct setup. But if you go, this is another strategy, if you go shopping among the choices, you'll probably get lost. Like if I'm going shopping at Christmas time and I don't know what I'm looking for in a non-COVID world, I might go through every store in the mall. But if I know I'm going to the Gap and getting jeans, I'm in and I'm out. But now we're all online anyway, so no mall for me for Christmas. A coffee bean blend contains Sumatra beans, which are $6 per pound, and Kona beans, which are $14 per pound. If the blend costs $12 per pound, which of the following systems of equations could be used to determine how much each type of coffee is in 60 pounds of the blend? So first we need a number equation, which will just be the Sumatra beans plus the Kona beans will be, we have actually 60 pounds. And then we need our money equation, which will be $12 for the Sumatra beans. Wait, let me just get this right. Whoops. Our phone just rang. $6 for the Sumatra beans plus 14 for the Kona beans will be 60 times 12, which is 720. And so if I write these out ahead, do you see this strategy? I won't have to think through the choices and all I have to do is find the match. And so that's the strategy, not to go through every single question, but just to find the match. Okay, and so the answer for that one would obviously be, the match is C. Or if you have to go through it all and think, it's a little bit difficult. Let's do question 1. The width of a rectangle, I'm just going to do screen here. The width of a rectangle is 5 feet less than the length. Which of the following systems of equations can be used to find the dimensions of the rectangle if the perimeter of the rectangle is 48 feet? So the perimeter is going to be obviously 2 L's and 2 W's. So we'll just have 2L plus 2W is 45. We have to manipulate this equation just a tad, so we would get W plus 5 equals L. And then these two equations actually work out to be answer choice A. So that's not so difficult. So like I said, rather than looking at all choices, let's go try one more, and then I'm going to give you one in the book to try. So we're on the top of page 8. Okay. The toll rates for crossing a bridge, so it's $8 for a car and $12.50 for a truck. During a 3-hour period, a total of 345 cars and trucks cross the bridge. and the total collected in tolls was $3,048. Which of the following systems of equations could be solved to yield the number of cars X and the number of trucks Y that crossed the bridge during the time allotted? So we have cars plus trucks is 345. We write our own equations down so we don't have to go get duped by their choices. And then we need the money equation, 8 cars plus $12.50 for a truck. And the total is $3,048. And the match for this would be answer choice B. So that wasn't too hard, I hope. So let's go to one in the book. So I'd like you to go to page 601, number 6, and do, as this is a popular question, and I'd like you to try it and then put your answer in the chat room. And so now if you get one like this, it won't be that intimidating because you did it before, and you just have to write your equations ahead of time and then find the match. Don't get all lost in all those choices because it's too easy to make a mistake. Did anybody get an answer yet? So I'm going to sort of dive in here. So we know that the bench chairs, or the bench tickets plus the lawn tickets. Okay. I think a couple people, but I'm just still watching because I don't know where the last one stopped.
I think that Joe and Annie and Patrick definitely got it.
I don't know if that was the last question.
I think it was.
Okay.
I think it's this question.
So there's 350 of those. Then we need our money equation, which would be 75 for the bench ticket plus 40 for the lawn ticket, and the total amount is $19,250. So D is right. So now one of those will just be thank you, College Board, for 10 points. Okay, let's go back to the packet. So we're on algebraic expressions. So you know You can only add like terms, correct? That's pretty easy. Then the distributive law, we're just quickly going over it, which will be AB plus AC. And then when you factor, you just take out what's common to both. And this is often how to do something at the end of the test. So on the top of the next page, I'd like you to just take a couple, maybe 5 minutes, and see where it says simplify the following on the top of page 9. I'd just like you to try these. Remember that you can only add like terms. This is just a litmus test of your algebra skills. Okay, so I'm just going to put the answers in red. This is sort of a self-monitor exercise to be sure because some of you may be in calculus. I had one girl tell me calculus ruined me for the SAT. So this is just the answers to these. Yeah. All right, so these are the answers to the first 5. The big thing is I want you to see that when you do a minus over parentheses, that was going to be a plus 3b at the end. So check your work, and if anybody has a question, just ask me in the chat room right now, and we'll move on to the next 2. So we're just sort of looking at the chat room, just being sure that you can distribute and combine like terms. So trying already knowing this group is pretty smart, I'm just going to leave this up for a second. And hopefully everybody's monitored themselves, because we can't go to the really hard algebra unless we have all the fundamentals. It's like football. Okay? So let's go on to the factoring if nobody has any questions. Okay, so I forgot to clear the screen. Okay, so if we have 2x squared, and 6x would be 3 times 2x plus 2 times 4. I can factor just a 2 out of everything. Then I'll be left with x squared plus 3x plus 4. Okay? And then the next one, breaking it down, and as we get into harder ones, this is a good method to do the factoring. So you just pick out what's common to all of these, and it would be a 3 and an x. And so you would have 3x, 5y plus 2xy plus 1 to hold the place. So that's factoring. Not so bad, but it's a concept I want. It's just a basic fundamental. Okay, so let's go down to question 1 at the bottom of page 9. You can do that example at your leisure. Okay, so we have 6x plus 4 is 7. Now this is important. It says, what is 6x minus 4? So initially, when you take your test, always look at the prompt, because a lot of kids will just solve for x and they'll be done. But I want to sort of train your brain to always look at what they're asking for. So here they're asking for 6x minus 4. So 6x would be 3. X would be 3 over 6, which is a half. So we're basically doing 6 times a half minus 4. 3 minus 4 was a minus 1. So the strategy here is begin to train your brain, not like in your math class. You're not just solving for X. They will always give you something to solve for, hoping that you don't look at that part. So let's move on. We're now on page 10. And we thought about each question we're asking here. So on page 10, we have 7 over x plus 3 is 8. And this brings up a situation in algebra. So if we subtract 3, we would have 7 over x equals 5. And now we can just sort of put the 5 over the 1 and cross multiply. So if you have a situation like this, you can just think about making it a proportion. So you'll have 5x is 7. So your answer would be 7/5, which is answer choice C. Not so bad, right? But I know some of this might seem burdensome or tedious, but we're just trying to polish up every math skill to get to the hard one. Okay, let's look at this one. N plus 7 is 2, so n is a minus 5. But see, look at what they're asking for. They're asking for n minus 4. So minus 5 minus 4 would be minus 9. That one is not an A trap. That answer is A. Okay, if I'm going too fast or you have any questions, Jim's looking at the chat room, not me. So let's do the next one. And you can sort of go ahead of me. 12 minus 3. That's why, okay, now we're going to distribute this 3. So we'll have 18 minus 3x. Subtract the 8. Add the 3x. So 10/4, but you might say the answer isn't there. But that's because they reduced it, so the answer is 5/2. Okay, and let's look at 5. So just a word problem. 3 more than y is 6, right? 2 less than 8. It doesn't say 2 less 8. It says 2 less than 8. Pretty easy one. Y is just 3. And then the next one brings up a situation also. So we could just cross multiply this, in which case we would see just be 7x. Save myself some trouble. So x would be 5. But also, another strategy is to use the answer choices. And the best way I can say this is sort of fly like an eagle above the problem. And so if you use the answer choices, you can pretty much see that if you put in 5 for x, it's going to equal each other. So that's sometimes use the answer choices, and you'll see my fly like an eagle strategy as we go through the course. Okay, let's turn on the next page. This is about the hardest it would get on the no calculator section. So they're not going to ask you to number crunch. They're just going to be asking you to do some fancy algebra. So I'm just going to work this, and you can work ahead of me, and we'll see if we get the same answer. Oh, I might be going off the page. Okay, so I'll give you just a second to sort of relate to that. Okay, and you can go back and look at that if you'd like, But that's about as hard as a no calculator would be as far as algebra skills are concerned. So we're just trying to sharpen those. Hopefully everybody's okay. Now we're moving to linear equations in two variables. Looking at the example in the gray. Okay, we have 1/5 x plus 1/4 y equals 8. And I need to get 4x plus 5y. So you probably didn't see any of these questions in your math book. So we have to figure out what would we multiply by here to get to here. And we would multiply by 20. So we do this by 20, this by 20, and 8 times 20 would be 160. So let's look at question 1. You can look at that example later on your own if you'd like. Just save these packets, and then, the night before the test you should just sort of relax, but you'll have these packets there. So let's look at number 1. So if we have 1/2 x plus 1/3 y is 8, we want 3x plus 2y. And you might say, how in the world am I going to get that? Well, you just have to see what did you multiply this by to get here, and it would be times 6. And so 6 times 8 would be 48. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. So let's try the next one, number 2. If we have 4m plus k is 2, and then the College Board asks us for 8m plus 2k, we could pretty much see that we're multiplying by 2. And so we would get 4, which is B. Not so bad, but it's probably not something you saw in your math class. So I'd like you to try a book problem real quick. I'd like you to go to page 612, and we're going to do number 33.
I think you did this one.
Did we?
I think so.
Wait, hold on. Maybe we did this one. Oh, yeah, we did that one. Wait a minute. I got to pick a different one. Hold on. Sorry about that. So if we could do 465, number 27.
I don't think the page number's right or something.
Oh, number 17. Sorry.
Oh.
So if we want to get 2x plus 1, we just have to see what we have to do here. We're dividing everything by 2. And so we should get 2. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. All right. Hopefully you've got the stamina there. We can keep going here. So number 3. I'm on page 12. Like I said, you guys are so acclimated to learning online, which I don't know the pros and cons, but okay, we have 6x plus 2 is 4k, and we're trying to get 3x plus 1. So this time we're dividing by 2. 4 divided by 2 will give us 2k, which is B. So again, dividing, if we have 9x plus 3 is 30, and we're trying to get to 3x plus 1, we can see that we're dividing by 3. And so the answer would be 10C. The next one, number 5. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. I know this is a break group, so just question us in the chat room if anybody's confused. Jim, you're watching, right?
Yeah.
So we want x over 2 plus a y. What would that be? Well, we have to divide this by 12. So 168 divided by 12 would be 14. And so these only should be about, a 10-second problem. But the whole goal is that when you see one of these, you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. We're trying to just get a plus b. So we're just going to divide this by 10, this by 10, and this by 10. And so we would get 5.2. And that's what we would grid in, 5.2. Okay. That's not so bad, but we just do enough so that you're very comfortable with each problem. So, so you're just skipping through the test, and it's like, I know how to do one of those, and now we're doing linear equations and multiple variables. So, we did one pretty difficult one in that orientation lesson. So if you look at the example on page 12 in gray, you can see we're trying to get the L to stand alone. So you can sort of look at that work and see that D would be correct. So you can look at that at your leisure at home. I'd like to go to the next page, page 13 in the packet. Hopefully none of you are too weary on me. Again, this is sort of brushing you up from COVID slide and everything else so we can catapult you to your future. So the next one is pretty easy, number 1. So if we do number 1, number 2 is going to be difficult. But number 1, a plus b is 12. This isn't so bad because we're putting in 12 for a plus b. And that's not so bad. So we have 12c is 36. So c is 3. Not so bad. Let's go to a harder one. This is a real hard one. Okay. B, X, and Y. This is as hard as it would get. And like I said, you'll only get one of these variable ones. But anyway, we have this. B equals XY minus Z all over X minus Y. So we would multiply both sides. We're trying to get X. So circle what you have to get and just cross off that in terms of. This one's going to take it up a notch for sure. Okay. So we're going to multiply both sides by X minus Y. This would definitely be at the end of the test. See, I don't know if you're going to get an easy one of these or a hard one. So now I distribute the B. Now remember, we're trying to get X to stand alone. So let's add a BY to the right side and subtract an XY from this side. That's a Z. Sorry, I'll make that neater. So we're trying to get the X to stand alone. So this is when we sort of have to think about factoring. So if we bring the X out in this hard one, and then we just divide both sides by B minus Y, we get the answer A, which is not a trap in this case. Okay, I'm going to let you take a minute to digest that. And usually people have questions at this point, so we're going to watch the chat room for a second. Looks like everybody's sort of okay. Okay, so this is all leading somewhere, so I'm going to have you try a pretty hard book one in just a second, but everybody's got that one sort of, like I said, you're probably going to get one of these. I don't know if you'll get the easy version or the hard version, but we want you ready for both situations, wherever you are. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is question number 3 in the packet on page 13. So we have x equals 1 over y plus 1. And I have to get what y is. That in terms of, I just cross off. So let's multiply both sides by y plus 1. I could always pick a number in this case. I'm not going to take the time to do it right now. But on the test, if you were told you had the time, and hopefully we're going to give you extra time by getting you so familiar with these questions. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by y plus 1. Then I'm going to subtract the x. Oh no, I want to factor. I want to get the...
I'm trying to get the y.
I'm trying to get the y to stand alone. Sorry. So I multiply both sides by y plus 1, and I got x times, sorry here. So that will be x over y plus 1 is 1 over y, let's see here. No, just 1. So then I'm going to have xy plus x equals 1. Factor out subtract the x. 1 minus x equals xy. We're trying to get the y to stand alone, so I divide everything by x. I don't know if I'm going to take this up here because I have a limited board. And now you might say, well, I don't see that answer there, but it's there in another form. I'm sorry that my whiteboard is limited here. So it's there as, we just divided both sides by x. So I would have y equals 1 over x minus x over x, which is 1 over x minus 1. Which is answer choice C. And one time I had a student from China here, and I said, because I know they're crazy math geeks, and so I said, well, if you look at this problem with the ratio, our initial problem, since it's a ratio, you could just interchange these two. Put this up here and this down here. And he said, yes, Mrs. Hessler, we learned that in 2nd grade. That's what he told me. So anyway, but our answer is C. The last one, and then I'm going to give you a book one to try. Let's look at number 4. Again, this is the only time we're hitting this variable situation, so we want to hit it strong. I usually give you just enough that I know that you're comfortable with the problem. So we're trying to get the p to stand below. So let's subtract 6 from both sides. And now this is why I mentioned factoring at the beginning of class. So we could factor out a p, and that would give us plus 1 to hold the place. And then we just have to divide that whole thing on both sides. And voila, we get answer choice C. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. Okay, so now I'd like you to try a book one to see how you would do. And we're going to go to page 1127. And I'm going to have you try number 13. And you're trying to get the V to stand alone. So just cross off that in terms of. I'll give you a minute to try it and see if anybody feels comfortable giving me an answer in the chat room. Since it's a number 13, it's sort of beginning to get in middle high difficulty.
Joe and Annie got it.
Wow! Joe and Annie, high five to you. Wow. Here we come, 700 math scores. So I just want to be sure that Liam and Annie Annie got it. Liam and Patrick are up to speed on this. I'll just wait a second. If you have a question, just ask me. We're sort of in the home stretch.
They're all good. You keep going.
Oh, they're all good. Okay, great. I mean, it's some more 800 math scores. Let's go on to page 14. Look at this one. We have x over y equals k, and k is bigger than 0. So we're trying to get x plus y over x. We just cross off that in terms of. So remember I said that we could go through the math door or we could pick a number. So let's try doing both ways. Let's pick a number. Let's say x is 6 and y is 3. So 6 over 3 on this planet, So k would be 2. So our answer is x was 6 plus y was 3, 9 over, let's see, x, so we're trying to get x plus y over x in terms of k.
I thought you said x was 6.
Yeah. So I have 6 plus 3 over 6, which would give me 9 over 6, which would give me 3/2. So what answer is 3/2? So let's try them. A would be 2 minus 1, which is 1 over 2. That wouldn't work, but look at B. B would be k plus 1, k is 2, 2 plus 1 all over 2, and we have a match. So that's doing it, picking the number way. Let's go through with the math door, and I'll show you why it's a little more complicated. So in the math version of this, okay, we have x plus y over x. So that would equal x over x plus y over x. So that's 1 plus, and now we have to get the k, and k is x over y, so it's going to be 1 over k. So that would be k over k plus 1 over k, and we would get the same thing. We would get answer B. So, but there's easily, it's a little more strenuous to do the math here, and that is why we're sort of recommending picking a number if it gets really convoluted. Okay, great. Okay, we're in the home stretch. Inequalities, not so bad. You've had this forever and ever. Let's look at number 1. I just want to review open circle, closed circle. So if we have 40x is greater than or minus 30, we divide both sides by 40. We'll have x is greater than a negative 0.75. But this, remember, this means open circle. So if x is bigger than a minus 0.75, A is going to be the answer, right? Because we want anything greater than minus 0.75. Okay, the next page, very quickly. Like I said, we only, oh my, we're almost done. This is terrific. And again, I apologize that we had that glitch. So y plus 4x is less than 12. We're giving y to stand alone, right? X is 2. So y plus 8 is less than 12. Y has to be less than 4. And the reason we put this question on here is you could grid in. Sometimes there are multiple answers that work. And so you could grid in a 3, a 2, or a 1 and be great because you have to have a positive number. So be prepared that sometimes there are multiple answers for grid-ins.
Don't try to put in all the answers.
But don't put in all the answers because the computer will just choke. All right, let's try 3. When you divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign. We just wanted to review that. We're covering probably about 5 years of math tonight. Okay, so we have minus 3p. We're subtracting 18. But it's just a prescribed amount that we're dividing by a minus 3. So that's why you can raise your math score and English score so easily. P is greater than let's see,
Did you flip the sign?
No, I'm about to though. I'm dividing by a minus 3. And so I'll have minus 3p is greater than a minus 6 after I subtract that. Then I'm dividing by a minus 3. So P, I have to flip the sign. That's the tricky part. Again, we're just polishing you up. Some of you might be in AP Calculus. and you didn't do the stuff in a while. Okay, the next one we're doing 4. Hang on, guys, we're almost done. We have 15 minus 3x over 2 is less than 12. So we're going to basically just multiply both sides by 2. And so when you think of what's writing on this, and your parents have invested in it, just 36 hours, just 9 math packets, and we've covered all the math on the test. But again, we're trying to hone your math skills. We have to flip the sign, just remembering that fact. Okay, we're going to move to 5, and then we're almost done. I can't believe it. So 5 is a little bit difficult. So look at this one. This is one where we have to use the answer choices. And you don't get many questions in school where you have to use the answer choices. So we want every value of x to work. So if we look at A and B, just sort of noticing them, do you see they're in the negative range? So we can't put a negative number in here that's going to make that bigger than, it's not going to work with a negative number, because no negative number is going to be greater than 3. But if we look at C, what's a number between, and again, these are strategies that your math teachers usually don't tell you. They usually want you to go through the whole math door. But there's no partial credit on this test. You just get the whatever graphite you put into the oval. So do you see that x could be a third here? So let's see if that would work. Does 2 over 1/3, is that bigger than 3? Well, when I divide by a fraction, I have to flip it. And yes, 6 is bigger than 3. So the answer for this one is C. Okay, great. Last page. Woo! Just wanted to be sure you've seen ones like these. And again, you probably, maybe you did and maybe you didn't. So if you look at the example, we actually have 2 inequalities and 3 terms in between those, and you can hit them simultaneously. So if I do number 1, I would have minus 4 is less than minus 2x plus 6 is less than 3/4. So what I would have to do here is divide. First I would subtract 6 from everything. And it's okay to do it this side and this side. That's, I guess, what we're saying. And if we subtracted 6 from that, we would get minus 5 1/4. And then I'm going to divide everything by a minus 2, but notice I will have to flip these signs. And so I'm going to get 5 is greater than x, which is greater than, it comes out to be 2 and 21/8 or 2 5/8.
Yeah, 21/8. Yeah.
Or 2, which equals. So I have to pick a positive number, so I could pick 3 or 4. Don't put both of them, but just one of them. Okay, last thing, and you're free to go. I'd like you to try number 2 and put the answer in the chat room. And we've conquered the evening, including the technology. I could be honest and forthright here. Jim was sweating a little bit. Just saying, I can't handle it. He said one thing was wrong, and he's deep in the bowels of whatever, Yahoo or whatever. YouTube. Deep in the bowels of YouTube. I would have been lost in there like Alice in Wonderland down the hole. But he got us out of it. So just find an answer for this one, put it in the chat room.
They're not going to see it.
Yes. Okay, so if we subtracted 3, we would have minus 7. And now I have to go everything by a minus 1 and flip the signs. Oh my gosh, we have such a smart group.
Yeah,
Woohoo! You're awesome.
Everyone.
Everyone. Okay, it was great.
Wednesday.
Let me see, put this on here. Wednesday at 5:30. You'll see me, and that's the only real thing I miss is that I can't see you. But I think this is better than Google Classroom because you get to see the work. That's what people have told us. Okay, so see you Wednesday at 5:30. No assignments yet. We're going to be assigning a practice test after Wednesday's class. Have a great week and evening. Signing off. Thank you.